It is concluded that human wants are insatiable. There is no way to completely satisfy our desires from human experience. Proverbs says there are things that are never satisfied in life. And it is fire, or they are fire, death, eyes, a barren woman, and people who love money. These wants, like fire and death, eyes, barren woman, and people who love money, they can never be satisfied. How are we to ever satisfy death? Or how are we ever to satisfy fire? You keep putting wood on it, keep putting flammables on it, and it keeps burning. And it's going to go down and die if you don't put more material on there. Death is never satisfied. One person, two people, animals, death, we can never satisfy death, and so on. Motivation is what causes people to do what they do. A lack of motivation will make people unproductive. This means that a lack of motivation is a kind of motivation. I'm not motivated to do anything. So, in the midst of the categories of the things that are never satisfied, I would put motivation in that category. That motivation or reasons for doing things would never end. So my question to you this morning is, what motivates you to follow Jesus? What motivates you to follow the Lord of the universe? In our text this morning, Mark chapter 3, verses 7 through 12, we read a tiny incident about Jesus' popularity. Jesus withdrew with his disciples to the lake, and a large crowd from Galilee followed him. When they heard all he was doing, many people came to him from Judea, Jerusalem, Idumea, and the regions across the Jordan and around Tyre and Sidon. Because of the crowd, he told his disciples to have a small boat ready for him to keep the people from crowding him. For he had healed many, so that those with diseases were pushing forward to touch him. Whenever the evil spirits saw him, they fell down before him and cried out, "You are the Son of God." But he gave them strict orders not to tell anybody or tell who he was. It's a very, very short text, very, very peculiar text, but there's a lot of information in there that we need to uncover. When Jesus withdrew with his disciples to the lake, meaning the Sea of Galilee, a large crowd from Galilee followed. When they heard what he was doing, or heard all that he was doing, many people came to him from Judea, Jerusalem, Idumea, and the regions across the Jordan and around Tyre and Sidon. Pretty much a radius of about 120 miles. From Idumea to the Sea of Galilee, and from Jerusalem about 80 miles. So there's a lot of people in this region who came to him via extreme circumstances. Now, they didn't have a 30-minute flight to the Sea of Galilee for 120 miles. It didn't take them like 3 hours to drive there. No. If they walked 12 miles per day, it would take 2 weeks to get there. So people went to Jesus diligently. It wasn't like, oh, it would be nice, and I would go to Australia, but the flight is 22 hours long, or I have to take a couple of ships to get there. I'll just watch it on TV. I'll just see it on YouTube. It wasn't that. They had to walk up and down mountains to get there. So they were extremely motivated to see Jesus for whatever reason. Because of the crowd, when they got there, Jesus told his disciples to have a small boat ready for him to keep the people from crowding him. So the boat actually was a practical arrangement for Jesus because the mob was innocently dangerous. It was so crowded that he was about to be trampled. The sheer force of the crowd would have squeezed him to death because they weren't sensitive. They just wanted him. If you've ever seen a frenzy on TV when a celebrity shows up, and that's why they have the fences, that's why they have the guards standing. This is what was happening to Jesus, and that's how popular he was. He says in verse 10, this is why they wanted to go there. For he had healed many, so that those with diseases were pushing forward to touch him. LeBron James, Tiger Woods, and Arnold Schwarzenegger would probably attract these kinds of mobs. And they're always sticking their hands out to touch the celebrities. Ah, touch me! Ooh, he's a fan! I got his autograph. I got a picture. And they're doing that constantly because they want to get their hands on Jesus. They also heard that if you touch Jesus, you get healed, just like the woman who was healed of her bleeding. So, what kind of healing did Mark share with us in the first 3 chapters? A demon-possessed man was healed. The demon was casted out. A man with leprosy was completely healed so that his skin was new. A man with a paralysis, his legs didn't work, so Jesus healed him. And then a man with a shriveled hand was also healed, and so it was completely restored. So those are the 4 kinds of, or specific healings mentioned, but those are the kinds of healings that Jesus did. So if you can't have a doctor heal you of your paralysis, okay, you got to sit in that chair for life. If a doctor tells you that and you have no hope, and all of a sudden you hear that these kinds of hopeless situations could be healed by Jesus, what are you going to do? You're going to get your rear end off the chair, well, not if you're paralyzed. You're going to have your friends take you on a stretcher and take you to Jesus so that you can be healed. For a chance of healing, you're going to go. So all of these people traveled for days, slept on the path along the way to finally get to Jesus, and they were pressing on him. News must have been even more far-reaching than the areas that he mentioned. They just didn't go. So whenever we go to conferences, they always say, okay, who traveled the furthest to get here? California, Europe, Australia, China. You win. Give you a special prize for making the longest trek. And then it goes like this. Verse 11. Whenever evil spirits saw him, they fell down before him and cried out, "You are the Son of God," but he gave them strict orders not to tell who he was. So why would the demons want people to know who Jesus was? And isn't that a good thing? Why would Jesus shut them up? Strange. So we're going to analyze this passage. And Jesus and his disciples are there trying to get some rest. They were supposed to be withdrawing from people, but the people kept coming. They didn't have a moment's peace. The crowds were inundating them and their schedule, their agenda. So the boundary, or trying to create the boundary, didn't work. Jesus was trying to create distance, but the distance was shortened by the crowd who pursued him tenaciously. He was overwhelmed. They were overwhelmed. The motivation of the crowd won over Jesus' desire to have a little bit of peace and quiet. I mean, does he deserve that? I mean, wasn't he supposed to be doing ministry? Shouldn't he be going 24/7? I mean, all of these needs are here. What is he doing? Running away from the crowd? He should be running to the crowd. But that's not what he was doing. And certainly we can learn from the lifestyle of Jesus, or the motivation of Jesus, on how we should live. We're not supposed to be workaholics, even in the name of serving God. You can't use God as an excuse to kill yourself serving. What was motivating Jesus? See, Jesus wasn't necessarily motivated by popularity, because he had it. If he wanted to be more popular, he could have gone to more places to get even more popular, but that's not what his motivation was. Jesus wasn't trying to be the biggest and the baddest and the best. He wasn't trying to be the person who was the most popular, universal. Say his name and everybody knows him. Did you know that Coke is more widely known than Jesus? Michael Jordan is more widely known than Jesus. Go to some parts of the world and they say, "Do you know who Michael Jordan is?" And they said, "Yes." "Do you know who Jesus is?" And they'll say, "No." That's terrible. So Jesus wasn't necessarily motivated by all of the popularity that he could achieve by doing the things that he did. But what motivated the crowd? Let's look. Why are they following Jesus? There are two main reasons, according to the text, that they followed him. Verses 8 and 10. They were curious and wanted to see, and they wanted healing. See, if I hear that somebody raised a person from the dead, I would want to see that personally too. Wouldn't you? I mean, if somebody was blind and could drive, you would go, "Oh, I'd like to see that." Superhuman had one of those. I mean, he had echolocation. So even though he was blind, he was riding a bike. And the way that he could ride a bike was he would click. And it's like a dolphin who sends out sonar and knows what's in front of him. But he's blind. So he's not seeing with his eyes, he's seeing with his ears. And then they took him to a phone booth and said, "What is this in front of you?" Of course he couldn't touch it. So "What is this in front of you?" He goes, and he goes, "Phone booth?" That's what it is. And so he was riding his bike when they got to him around his neighborhood. And it was remarkable. He could see without his eyes. If there was a arena, a circus of all of these special type of people, I would want to, pay good money to go see it. And Jesus is doing all of these miracles, and these people want to see it. The only thing that they have to pay for is the travel expenses that they would incur going from where they were to Jesus. So they wanted to see Jesus do these things, and if they didn't have anything wrong with them, they were just curious. But if there was something wrong with them, because they heard that Jesus was a healer, they would go and want to go there and get healed. And because Jesus healed many, they said, well, most likely he would heal me too if he healed almost everybody who was at a particular place, or everywhere he goes, he heals people. Wouldn't you do that for your son or daughter? Wouldn't you do that for your friends? Wouldn't you do that for your parents? I mean, even if you have to put them on a wagon and go up and down the hill, top of mountains, and down the other side, you would do it for the possibility that your loved one would get healed. The crowd was motivated by curiosity and healing. The evil spirits, well, they were inside the people, which means that they were forced to go to Jesus. If I found out that I was possessed and Jesus could knock demons out of my body, I would go and see him. So the demons come face to face with Jesus, and they get on their knees and they pay him homage and declare that Jesus is the Son of God. Now, why in the world would demons be motivated to worship God, pay him honor? What would drive them? Well, we see that they couldn't do anything to the Lord. They couldn't hurt him. They couldn't lie to him. It's amazing that these traits, these responses from demons are so contrary to humanity. When we look at Jesus, we can lie to him. We can lie about him. We can deny him worship. We can deny him in front of other people. But these are things that the demons don't do. They declare the truth, they don't lie, and they worship him. I mean, humanity is completely opposite of what demons do. But what motivates them to do it? Why do they tell the truth? Why do they honor him by bowing down? And why do they declare him publicly that he is the Son of God? I mean, these are the things that we should be doing. But they do it. But we know that when they do it, it's not a good thing. Because Jesus tells them to shut up. He would never tell us to shut up when we declare him in front of others. When we publicly say that Jesus is the Son of God, he won't say, no, don't say that. Yes, declare that. From the rooftops, declare that. But when the demons do it, he says no. Then he must have understood why they were doing that. But their reasons get shorted by Jesus because he doesn't want them to do it. He wants us to do it, but he doesn't want them to do it. We are not told here, we only have to guess, why they did what they did, and we only know by the response of Jesus that this was not a positive thing. Because he stopped it. But the conjecture has to be made, and through Scripture we need to understand why they do what they do, and the demons are always going after the right thing for the wrong reasons, or the wrong thing for the right reasons. Okay? Now I want you to think about that and embrace that. Because what demons want you to do is the right thing for the wrong reasons, and the wrong thing for the right reasons. Okay. Let's go back to Genesis again and discover what Satan did in order to cause the fall. Okay. She said it was pleasing to the eye, it was good for food, it was beneficial for gaining wisdom. All of those things are what? Positive reasons. Positive reasons. When I look at a piece of pomegranate and I open it up, it really looks good. Pleasing to the eye. The reason why, part of the reason why I married my wife was because she was pleasing to my eye. It's reasonable, right? So, no sane guy in his right mind goes after a woman because he thinks she's the ugliest thing on the planet. Right? I'm gonna be honest, right? No, we don't do that. She has to be pleasing to his eye, however he sees her. These are all right reasons. Beneficial for gaining wisdom? Eve says, this is beneficial for gaining wisdom. This is a good thing. I want knowledge. I want sanity. I want a clear understanding. I want discernment. I want all of these benefits. Those are the right reasons, but she did the wrong thing. So, telling Jesus that he is the Son of God, telling the truth, the demons were doing those things. But what was their motivation? Their motivation, I can surmise, is they wanted to overwhelm him and derail him from doing what he was supposed to be doing. Or to make it so overwhelming that he wouldn't be effective. In other words, if Satan can't stop you from serving the Lord, he will make you overserve him. You hear that? If he can't stop you from serving the Lord, I am going to serve the Lord, I am motivated to serve the Lord, I am going to be obedient to him, he will say, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. Here's more, here's more, here's more, here's more, here's more. And he will be the one who is dictating what you do, not the Lord. Your motivation is right, but you will be doing too many things. One of the things that I have to talk to dads about, men about, in terms of providing for their families, is, are you over-providing? Are you over-providing for your children? Are you over-providing for your family? Yes, your motivation is to provide, but are you over-providing because there is a sacrifice for over-provision? God wants you to do the right thing. He doesn't want you to do it for the wrong reasons. And here the demons are doing the right thing for the wrong reason, and Jesus says, I don't accept that. I don't want it. Stop. They want to take control over his life, but he says no. Now, what were the disciples motivated by? Up until this point, we've been laid the foundation that the disciples were following him, being obedient to him. What were they motivated by? Well, we know that they were motivated by salvation. We know that they were motivated by Jesus' teaching in terms of, what is he declaring? Righteousness. They wanted righteousness. They wanted salvation. They wanted righteousness. They also wanted, and this was very subtle, and we hear them arguing about it, asking about it, and even at the end of the ministry of Jesus and after the resurrection in Acts, they asked him, are you now going to restore the kingdom to Israel? What were they motivated by? They wanted the Roman government to be overthrown and Jesus to be sitting on the throne leading. So they were motivated by this conflict between Israel and everybody else, and Israel and their oppressors, the Roman government. So they were motivated to follow Jesus because they thought that he would do those things. He will. He hadn't done it on earth. Okay. So then let's get to the nitty-gritties of this text and find out what we need to do as followers of Jesus. We have to follow Jesus for the right reasons. You and I are called to follow Jesus for the right reasons. What should those reasons be? He has the message of salvation. He is the Lord. So curiosity isn't it. We don't follow Jesus out of curiosity. Oh, let's see what he will do next. No. Curiosity is not a good reason to follow Jesus. It may be an attraction, but it is not the prime motivation. It's not going to sustain your relationship with Jesus just to be curious, because if it was just curious and the curiosity is met, then you no longer need to follow him. Beauty is not a good reason to get married to a woman. She will get old and won't be pretty compared to a younger woman. It's just not sustainable motivation to be married to a woman. Money is not a sustainable motivation to marry a man. No. Because when he dies, you're not going to produce anymore.